Hey guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm HarryWilmington. So, how do you re-engage a woman through text when you've already asked her out for a day and she said she couldn't make it, but she's still continuing a conversation with you? How do you do that? And I want to talk about this in particular, not so much to answer that particular question, but because I want to go over mistakes that you may not be aware that you're making in the process of your texting with a woman that could result in you not being able to ask women out at the right time, in the right way, or knowing how to engage them further to see if a date is going to be possible. And so there was a guy that I saw on a different forum that he wrote in saying, hey, I asked this girl out and I'm trying to figure out how to ask her out in a way that she actually says yes to a date. And then he shared his text exchange. So if you're watching this on YouTube, which you should be at youtube.com/HarryWilmington, you will be able to see the actual text that this guy sent in that I'm going to be going over, okay? And I think it's very, very important because you always need to be aware that there are things to do at the right times and the wrong times. And if you don't know what those things are, you could have a woman that actually wants to go out with you, but because you're not handling it the right way, it may never happen, all right? So let's go ahead and get to this guy's thing. So the post he put up, he said, I'm kind of new to this online dating thing. I wanted to ask her out again, but I don't want to just ask her out. I want to transition into asking her out from a conversation. I'm stuck on where I should go to next in the conversation. She likes traveling and hiking and the outdoors, but how do I get on that subject again where I could ask her out? So again, if you were looking at the screen, these are the texts that were sent. So I gather from the screenshots that he took, he starts with her text first, and clearly they were talking about hiking or going some kind of hiking situation, okay? So her first text says, yes, I have a few go-to trails around me, but I do a lot of hiking when I travel. I'm missing international travel a lot. Can't wait to get that ball rolling again. Ha ha. And then she asked, do you hike around where you live a lot? So the fact that her answer had like 3 or 4 good sentences means that whatever conversation they were having previously, she's actually engaged in the conversation, and she's doing a thing where she gives an answer and then she asks a question back. So this is a great way to be able to tell if a woman is, if nothing else, enjoying the conversation. Because women that don't, what you'll start to notice is they'll give 1 or 2 word answers here or there, or they'll give a couple of sentences, but they won't try to ask another question. So if you're getting a woman that is asking you questions back, that is a really good sign that you're on the pathway towards building up some kind of feelings or attraction for her, okay? So that's what she did. So then his answer was to her question. Well, he said, first, I bet that would be really awesome to travel and see some cool places. So he referred back to something she just said. Fantastic. Then he says, yes, there's some cool places close to where I live with some trails to go hiking. And that was also fantastic. Now, so far in this texting exchange, nothing wrong. And it's not that he's making any major mistakes in the course of what you're going to be seeing here, but I'm going to clue you in on some things he says and why it is that those things could possibly be hindering his chances. So the next sentence he says is, we should get some coffee sometime and plan a trip to go hiking. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong per se with what he said, but these are just little things that you got to look out for, because early on in the dating processes, when you're saying or suggesting certain things, you don't want to be doing things like piling on too much or asking too much too soon. So what he's asked her essentially is, we should plan to get coffee together, and then we should use that coffee planning date to then plan another date to go hiking. And that's not really something you want to do early on. Your main objective should be to focus on getting that first date with a woman. So you're focusing on one date. Yes, it would be nice if you guys are able to have multiple dates after that, but you never want to plan too far into the future, because subconsciously to a woman, that's going to feel like you're already choosing her and that you're already trying to lock her down sight unseen, all right? So it's a small thing, but a lot of guys don't recognize those small things. They just think they can do whatever, but recognize all these little small mistakes that you make in the beginning can build up to make a woman feel like you're either trying to do too much too soon, you're too needy, et cetera, et cetera. So you really want to try to focus on getting one date at a time. What I would have done in this situation is, after I said, yeah, there's some cool places close to me where I live, where I like to hike, I would have either asked her another question about that and continuing that same thing, but not quite asked for the date yet. Or if I was thinking that we had had a long enough conversation to have a date, I would have said something like, this conversation is going really great. I'd love to be able to meet you in person. Let's plan out a date. Like, that would have been the go-to. That way she knows, based on the various things we've talked about to this point, that I see that there's something here building that I'd like to explore further. Because you really don't want to be trying to plan extra dates with the person you haven't met, because you might meet them in person and then you don't like them, but now you've planned like 3 or 4 dates with this person already. And we don't want to be men that go back on our plans. But it's easy. It's harder to do that when you're planning 4 things in advance and then all of a sudden you realize you don't like the person. So err on the side of focusing on just one date at a time. Now, if you're on that first date and you happen to like each other and things are going good, then you can, after that date, wait a few days and then ask her out for a second date. This is good intel to have about the kind of dates that she likes to go on or the kind of activities, and that's good to keep in the back of your head, but don't think you have to ask her out on all these dates based on all these likes she has right up the top, okay? Anyway, so at that point, he said the thing he said about we should get some coffee sometime and plan a trip to go hiking, and then she says, I'd be down for that. Now, what most guys will do is they'll see that and be like, great, so let me know when we should go. And you don't want to do that either, okay? So if a woman at any time says, hey, I'd agree to go on a date with you, I'd be totally down to do some stuff, that's the part where you come into it and saying, great, let me know when you're free, your dates and times, yada, yada, yada. This is the hiking trail we can go on. This is a restaurant we can meet at. You want to already have stuff planned in advance of places you can take women to, should a woman agree to go on a date with you. So she said, I'd be down for that. And then this was his response. He says, okay, awesome. Are you free on Saturday? Now, again, you're thinking that there's nothing wrong with that response, right? But here are 2 really big mistakes that this response can end up having, okay? So the first one, very, very important, is that you never want to offer just one day, because the brain subconsciously is going to always choose between 2 options that it's presented. If you present the brain, i.e. in this case, this woman, with one option of a date, the 2 responses she can have are either yes to Saturday or no. But what you want to have presented instead are 2 different days, because then the brain's going to decide between those 2 days instead of one of those days or no. And you have a far better chance of being able to get a woman to say yes to a date if you offer 2 days. So I wouldn't have been the one to say, are you free on just this one day? I always tell women when I'm asking them out, hey, great, I got a place we can go to. Let me know if you're free Tuesday and Thursday night. Let me know if you're free on Monday or Thursday. Let me know if you're free Sunday or Monday. I always give the option of 2 things. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, what if they can't do either day? There's usually a lower probability of that happening. So if you offer 2 days, more often than not, a woman's going to choose one of those days. But again, if they don't, then if they're really wanting to see you, the fact that you offer up 2 days, you've now set out the tone of, oh, we're offering days, so now you can also offer a day. If you just offer one day, there might not be any sense to that. She might be thinking, well, Saturday's his only day, and as the woman, I don't want to, put out there another day, so I don't know. So really work on presenting 2 days instead. First mistake. And then the second mistake that he made, and this is one that a lot of guys don't really recognize or understand or get, is that he asked her out on a Saturday. And what I want to really, really push you guys to get to understand is that weekends are not the times to be trying to ask women on dates, because you, my friend, are new stimuli. And so what that means is, as important as you're feeling this moment is with her, because you guys have had a good rapport, she said some nice stuff to you, you're already starting to feel the attraction build up. The reality is you are an unknown. And Fridays and Saturdays are days that she is setting aside for people that are already in her life. So if her friends have something coming up, if her mom or dad or relatives have stuff coming up on those days, they are going to have more importance over you because you are a stranger. Now, I know you think to yourself, but I'm so great. And you are. You're a great guy. But she doesn't know that yet. And even though you've had a great conversation with her, you have not had a great enough conversation to make her want to get rid of any plans that she had on Friday and Saturday. So for you guys that are starting to date these new women, err on the side of Sundays through Thursdays. Are there ever any exceptions to the rule? Yes, absolutely. If a woman's got like a hectic schedule, like say she's a lawyer or doctor and her work hours are all during the week where she can't have free time except on the weekends, then that is when exceptions can be made. But for the most part, most people, including most women, work 9 to 5 jobs. After 5 o'clock, they got to eat and they got to drink. So usually during the weekday, you can get a woman out. Now you might be thinking to yourself, but like, what if they have to go to work the next day? Well, my response to that is that first dates aren't designed to go all night. I know you're thinking, I want to be able to get a shot at her taking us going home together or doing whatever. One, if the woman wants to do that, she will. But also, you, for the purposes of these first dates, need to have a time constraint already set in anyway. So you being able to meet up with a woman on, say, a Wednesday at 7:30, but she has to be home by 9 o'clock because she wants to get ready for bed and be restful the next day. Well, that's actually a good thing because you shouldn't be spending more than an hour and a half to 2 hours tops with women on these first few dates. These dates that go on like for hours on end are the same dates that are going to cause her to start feeling burnout for you. So you err better on the side of really setting up weekday dates, Sundays through Thursdays, where there's a time limit to where she's going to want to go home and get some rest, and that'll give you just enough time to put on your little show and dance and let her see and feel like why you're impressive and why she should be attracted to you, but then being able to get out at the height of her enjoyment of you, okay? That way she has time to think about you and think back on the great time she had with you and how good you made her feel in that short amount of time. Don't try to do these weekend dates where you can have like 8 or 10 hours because you're probably going to burn it out, all right? So let's see what happened when he suggested Saturday. So he said, "Oh, awesome. Are you free on Saturday?" And she said, "I actually have a Halloween party this Saturday. It's actually Day of the Dead themed." So what did I say? She already has plans. She has party plans. This was over over Halloween, so it was a holiday weekend. So you definitely don't want to ask women out around holiday weekends because, again, you are a new person. And you might think to yourself, well, but if we're getting along great on text chat or whatever, and she's going to a party, couldn't she just invite me? I have talked time and time again about the fact that when you first start dating a woman, you don't need to have other people around, friends, family, etc. So no, you shouldn't be trying to ask if you can come along to this party with her because she hasn't met you and does not know you enough on a dating level to even make that decision, let alone on a relationship level. That's really more towards the relationship side of things at the point where you start going to parties that she's going to be at and her showing you off to other people. But a great text conversation does not make for a great in-person conversation. And you guys need to go through the exercises of having those in-person dates before you say either yes to taking her to parties or trying to ask if you can go to parties that she's going to. And don't take it as an insult if she doesn't want to take you along because she doesn't actually know you. Again, a few conversations does not mean that she's fully feeling comfortable enough with you to take you on those kind of things. So at that point in the conversation, he's only offered one day, and it was the bad day of the week, Saturday. So she said she has a party to go to. And then he said, "Nice, well, that will be fun. Those masks that they paint on look cool." Then he said, if I went to one of those and had my face painted, my luck would be it wouldn't come off the next day and I'd go to work and people would look at me funny, LOL. And then so that was on Thursday that he texted that to her. And then Saturday or Sunday morning, she texted him back saying it was a good time and my makeup did come off, ha ha. So you see, at the point that he wrote her back on Thursday, then they went Friday and Saturday without talking to each other, which is totally fine because it's an online dating app. And honestly, you shouldn't be so focused on having to hear from a person you're just texting online every single day anyway. But she wrote him back saying she had a good time or whatever. So important to note though, because he cussed it off there. So at that point, I think that's when he wrote the message asking what he should do next or how to get engaged. So what he's trying to do now is say, okay, we had a conversation about hiking. So now I want to get back to a conversation about hiking so I can ask her out on a hiking date. That's not always the best idea because here's the thing. Women are going to be telling you a lot of their likes and dislikes and things they like in the course of these conversations. And it's very, very good. But they're also, I've experienced this personally, like a woman saying, oh, I want to go, I'd love to try this thing out. And then like the second date, I'm doing that thing. So there's now been no wait for that to happen. There's no mystery about what I'm trying to do because I'm already just saying, you said this thing, I'm going to do this thing. So don't think that just because women suggest certain likes or things that they want to do, that you have to do them right away. Like in this case with the hiking, if she mentioned she liked hiking, great. I would have probably still gone on a first date of some kind and a second date of some kind. And then on that third date said, hey, we talked about hiking early on. Let's go for a hike. All right. But you don't have to circle back to a previous conversation to present stuff either. Like in this case, she said it was a good time and makeup came off. At this point, you can say, oh, I'm glad you had a good time. Hey, so this week, I don't know what your week's looking like, but I'm going to be free on Tuesday and Thursday night. Let's go get some coffee. I'll pick the place. Just let me know which day you're free. And then on the coffee date, you talk some more. You end that date. Second date, hey, let's do something else, whatever. On that second date, you can say, hey, blah, 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 blah. I know we talked about hiking, like we should do that sometime soon. And then that third date, ask her hiking. But all this to say, don't feel like it's got to be a weird thing. Because I think sometimes as men, I know we're very much linear thinkers. And I think that the Achilles heel of being a linear thinker is that we think everything needs to be said in a specific order in order to do the next task. So we think, well, in order to get to a hiking date, I got to be going down the path of talking about hiking in order for that to happen. And women are very much like, because everything's so collectively together in their heads, everything already kind of connects, which is the positive, because it means that you can go from a conversation about Halloween parties that you went to, hey, let's go on a hike. You could literally, this guy could literally be like, oh, I'm glad you had a good time at the party. Hey, so let's go hiking on Tuesday or Thursday. Like, you don't have to connect those things at all for them to make sense to the woman, because they're more about the feeling tone of the conversation, not the actual words that are being said. So as long as the feeling tone is like, I'm still feeling a vibe with this guy, I'm still feeling like he wants me and he wants to connect with me and I'm feeling the same thing too, then anything you say that connects with that feeling is gonna get you the results that you want. But recognize in the process of your texting, recognize the things that I talked about. Recognize, the days that you're asking for. Recognize how you're asking for dates. Recognize the things of like trying to stack too many dates on each other because you don't want to make those mistakes. Those small little mistakes are things that can have big impacts if you're not careful. So hopefully this helps some of you guys out.